My name's Adam Schulke. I'm a consulting manager here with Smartsheet. On behalf of all of us here at Smartsheet, I want to thank you guys for being here to engage with us this week, and specifically thank you for being here as part of this session with us today. I really hope that you guys walk away with valuable insights and tangible items that you can take back to help accelerate innovation. In a moment, I'm going to ask Stacy Gray Gardner to join me here on stage to discuss a topic that's near and dear to me, and that's world-class project management with Smartsheet. Thanks, Stacy. Stacy is the project manager and administrator for Delaware North Parks and Resorts at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. With over a decade of experience and knowledge, Stacy is the champion of change at Delaware North and a deep expert in project management and leveraging the Smartsheet solution. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
So, Stacy, when you look up the definition of project management, it includes items such as framework, processes, guidelines, and techniques to manage people and work. Why are these elements so important to driving business initiatives?
I think it just boils down to how do you start? So we have all of these great tools out there. You open up an Excel document or an Excel workbook. Now you have a Smartsheet collaborative tool. It's blank. Where do you start? A lot of people get it and they said, this looks cool, but where do I begin? And that's where you have to go back to project management and your processes and your current processes in your organization to answer that question. So as we're going on to this new experience with a new tool such as Smartsheet, it's a great opportunity for your organization to kind of take a step back and make sure, do we understand what our processes are? Can we lean them out and maybe do some Six Sigma analysis and make them better before you start implementing these tools? So that's what we've been kind of doing at our organization at Kennedy Space Center, Delaware North. And it's been very eye-opening. We've seen lots of process improvements. And we're able to get everybody onto the same page. Previously, we were working in silos where we were all not understanding how different parts of the business were operating and how we affected each other. And by going down this process and using project management, we've been able to open those doors. And one of the things that Smartsheet did for us when I started with the organization was we didn't have a lot of PMPs, not a lot of certified project managers on staff. They've managed projects before, but they didn't necessarily know the language of project management. And that is so important to have everybody have a common language and understanding as to why you need to know who your stakeholders are before you develop requirements. That is important. Every project manager who's been trained knows why. So Smartsheet actually offered us some consultancy opportunities, and they came down and did some project management training for our staff just to get us started so we can answer that question, where do we start with this? How do we begin? Because I think when a lot of people start using the tool, that's their biggest question.
Sure.
How do I start?
Yep, absolutely. So project management can elicit both good and bad reactions. How do you see project management being a strategic differentiator of a business? And let's narrow that down to project management running on an efficient and transparent platform.
It's the consistency, it's the visibility, the transparency, all of the keywords that we've heard all week long. These are the elements that people want to see and be able to operate within their organization. So I would say that those were the key elements for project management on this platform, Smartsheet, that it gave us to be able to excel and actually get work done.
Yep.
When I first came on board, we were going through a transition period where our entire team was gone. And I came on day one with a notebook. Here you go. This is how to do your job. It was literally a binder trying to tell me how to do my job. There wasn't anybody left to tell me. I had to go out and figure it out for myself. Departments were siloed and didn't share information. We had systems in place such as network drives or shared drives. Nobody shared. It didn't make sense to me. Everybody locked down their department folders, and you couldn't find anything that you needed. When you're looking at it from a portfolio or a programmatic level, how do you roll up this information? How do you provide metrics at a higher level? You can't, because the information's in so many different places. It's impossible. And nobody wants to share their best practices. So I think having a tool and a solution on this platform, such as Smartsheet, is breaking down those silos, opening up the doors, the communication, the lines.
Yep, absolutely. So I led you a bit with that last question. Let's dive a little bit deeper. How does the platform itself influence the effectiveness, efficiency, and capability of project management within a company?
So it has all the familiar tools, Gantt charts, the Excel familiarity. I actually was eating lunch with someone from Kiewit today. Are you in the audience? Kiewit?
Nope.
Nope. They've done so much work with it already to where they've taken tools that we're used to, Excel, Project, Smartsheet, and just did a scorecard analysis. It's great if they were able to share it out. But they basically looked at all the applications within each program, each platform, how they use it for project management, and rated it. And it was very eye-opening what the limitations were and what the benefits and pros and cons were for each solution. So I would suggest for your organizations to do the same. Take a look at what tools you have. I mean, we have everything. We have SharePoint, Teams, Skype, Project, Smartsheet, Cateries. Does anybody know what Cateries is? EAM. We have so many different systems just on our side. And then we work with NASA, and they have a different platform and different tools and a private network, and we have to get separate logins and passwords for their tools. How many passwords do you have to memorize? It's absolutely daunting, all the different applications. So when you're able to take a look back and say, do we even use this to its full capacity? I'm already thinking SharePoint. I know there's probably a lot of SharePoint lovers in here, but there's nothing in SharePoint, after listening this week, that we can't get rid of and do in Smartsheet. Nothing at all. We need to simplify. I think for several years we've just expanded on, look at this tool and look at this tool, and now we have all of these tools that don't communicate or integrate, and work is not easier. It's more complicated. So we need to scale it back. We need to get back to a more of a one or two solution environment that we can actually get work done and stop chasing our tails around trying to find information.
Absolutely. I heard a couple people giggle with the password. Does anyone have problems with passwords? I mean, is that common? Yeah.
Keep all mine in Smartsheet.
That's what I like to hear.
That's right.
Keep them in Smartsheet. Sign this guy up right here. I love it. So Stacy, what are some of the high-level benefits a company would realize when they venture down the path of project management with Smartsheet in driving their business?
So when we came on board, we started a new project management group for Kennedy Space Center. And we're doing capital projects, so new attractions, new experiences for our guests, new buildings, refurbishments, maintenance projects, everything. So we came up to a point where it was recompete time. We have been operating the Kennedy Space Center since 1995, and we were interested in keeping that contract. But the world's changed. How do we compete with our competitors? If we're stuck using Excel like we have been for the last 30 years, we're not going to make the cut. You have to be open to change and be flexible and agile to what's out in the industry and be able to grab onto it and use it to your advantage. And we were tasked with trying to show that we could be effective and professional and proficient project managers. That's pretty hard when you don't have any project managers on staff. Nobody PMP trained, nobody coming from PMI. They're people who have managed projects, or in their words, got us done. You just get out there and get us done. And as long as you were doing that, you were okay. But that's just not good enough anymore. They're looking for more. They're looking for visibility, the metrics, all the numbers. They want to be able to see that you have it, you can handle it. So when I came on board and they said I had an option to pick my tool of choice, I was a Microsoft project user. I had never heard of Smartsheet before. So I started playing around with it, and I was like, wow, this is fun, this is neat, this is interesting. So I decided to take a chance and start to use it. And that's kind of how we started using our new Smartsheet tool. and trying to gain some of that respect back from our client that, yes, we can do this, we can manage projects, and we can do it in Smartsheet.
That's great. So what were some of your most memorable and impactful benefits upon leveraging Smartsheet's project management platform? And maybe the most fair comparison is comparing how you did things before Smartsheet to when you realized the full power of Smartsheet.
Excel. That's how everything's done, and to be honest, it's still a challenge today to get people to let go, and I think it's generational gaps. So I work with certain generations that they grab onto stuff. They're used to it. They get new phones every 6 months, new applications. They love it. They're easy to change course and try something new. People have done their work in the last, for the last 30 years in the same way, especially finance people. Love you finance people, but you are hard to get to change when you find something that works for you. But Excel documents saved in shared drives that are not privy to you, or for example, you have to update something in an Excel spreadsheet for your boss, and someone left for the day. And guess what? They left it open on their machine. And now you can't get into it to update your information on time because somebody left it open and didn't close it out before they left for the day. Challenges like that. And also, it's not easy. You could use pivot tables and workbooks and do all the fancy calculations and formulas to get your metrics, and then you have to chart them out. It's not as easy in Excel, to be honest, it's just my opinion, than it is when you have all the data in one place already in a platform like Smartsheet. I was listening in on several examples this morning, and it gave me so many ideas, and you guys probably had some similar ideas. But one example is we have a safety folder that goes around, several safety folders, red folders that get pushed under your office door. And it's simply just an article about safety, bend with your knees, don't go out in lightning, just simple things that are like, okay, I won't go play golf out when it's lightning, just common things but it's required that we read the article and we sign off and we send the red folder to the next person. And it goes around the whole office, and then somebody has to take it back to administration to make sure everybody signed off on the safety topic. Why can't we do that in Smartsheet? Why are we doing the folder distribution still? We actually also have an iPad up by the main executive boardroom. And in order to schedule a meeting in that room, we don't use Outlook Resource Calendar. You have to get up from your office to the iPad and schedule and book the room. Why can't we use Smartsheet for that? So I'm seeing lots of opportunities. Work order requests, facility management. We have to fill out a Word document right now to fill out a request for our union reps to go out and fix things, maintenance things, vacuum. We're not allowed to touch anything if it's a union job. So we have to fill out a form, we email it, they upload it into their system. It's just so inefficient. So I'm seeing things that come through my email box wondering now, why do we do it that way? Yep. And I think it's only now because I know what Smartsheet can do for us that I'm seeing things in a different way.
Excellent. So user adoption is almost as critical as the processes or methodologies themselves. What was it first like when you introduced Smartsheet, and how do you see adoption change once they saw the power of Smartsheet collaboration? Do you do anything special to help gain such adoption?
So that is still a challenge, to be honest. Change management in an organization that's been in place for years, doing the same tasks for years in the same way. It's really hard to convince people to change what they think is working just fine. Why should I change the way that I'm doing business? Because it works. What's in it for me? Why should I drop what already works for me? And so that's been a tough challenge, finance people. Gosh, I hope my boss doesn't see this. But I would love to bring them on board, bring them over to our side. But I think that having Smartsheet come in, the consultants' hours that they spent with us, showing us examples, creating solutions, doing lunch and learns. After I get back from this is my quarterly lunch and learn time, so I told Chelsea that I would wait till after this week so I could bring back all the knowledge and do a lunch and learn with our staff and our program, and then create a challenge. Now that based on what you've learned, I challenge you, go out and create something. And we're gonna have a contest and see who comes up with the best new Smartsheet tool. Just trying to make it exciting, rewarding, and give them an incentive to want to come on board and use the tool. I think someone mentioned carrot and a stick this week, and I think it's much easier to give them an incentive rather than just say, you will do this. I would love to be able to say, you will do this, but I'm not in a position in my organization to do so. It has to come from the top down. If it's not going to come from the top down, you're not going to be successful. That's just the way that it is. You can do the whole Smartsheet hero. I was telling you earlier that maybe I need a little cheerleader outfit with pom-poms so I can run around and just do Smartsheet cheers. I walk around with my Smartsheet cup, my coffee cup in the office, and they're like, that is so appropriate for you. And it's like, yeah, I know. And I try to hand out all the Smartsheet grab that you guys send me.
Sure.
I give them pens, and I just try to spread everything Smartsheet. So I'm just trying to get the word out, and I think little by little, 1 week at a time, I'm starting to get people to come up with ways to use the system. It's not a quick process. But so far, I'm really excited, and this week has given us a lot more ideas, or at least it's given me more ideas, and I can't wait to share them.
That's great.
With my team.
That sounds like a great approach. So maybe this is something that resonates with the folks out here, but when you first discovered Smartsheet, what were you feeling at the time that caused you to seriously explore a project management platform solution?
We needed something collaborative, and I think all the different keywords that we've seen on the screens and from the executives this week, it's been about collaboration. One of my favorite things is being in a sheet. I was on a project schedule. It's due to open the new ATX Education Center at Kennedy Space Center, the new space camp, if you will. It's going to be amazing. But we're set to open, and we're in the critical last-minute phases of the schedule. And I can go into the project schedule on Smartsheet now and see who's in it. And I say, oh, you're in it, you're in it, you're in it, and you want to have a conversation. You're like, everybody's online. Let's immediately start chatting about what's going on in the schedule, what's on time, what's going to slip, what's at risk right now. So it's great to be able to see people who are already online and engaged.
Yep.
This week, while I was at the conference, our normally scheduled project status meeting, of course I missed it, but they were asking me for help because I'm usually the one running Smartsheet during the meetings on my laptop, and I wasn't there. So they asked me for help to do something, and I logged in, and they said, oh, we saw you log in from Seattle, and we wish we could have just talked to you because I don't have the Hangouts or the Skype integrated yet. I can't wait to get that in place. IT.
Yep.
Gotta love IT. I've asked like 5 times. Trouble ticket.
That's great.
But yeah, I'm just so excited about the integration, the collaboration, the transparency. One of our COO's favorite function is when you click on a cell and right-click and you do view history, you can see who changed it and when they changed it. There's no more, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't change it. I don't know anything about it. You can right-click on any cell and see who did what. And that is so valuable when you're looking for who changed the date.
Yeah, that's powerful, absolutely. Yeah. So we mentioned adoption was critical, but equally important is influence to complementary groups. What's been your experience with groups as they begin to interact with Smartsheet? Has it begun to change how they drive their business? Or has Smartsheet adoption driven so far in applying itself in ways that you initially didn't even envision?
So we have a lot of stakeholders, and we're talking about project management specifically. So any trained project manager, as I mentioned earlier, knows the formula for figuring out how many channels of communication you have. Who knows it? Communication channel formula, PMs. Really?
No.
Come on, guys. Who's a project manager in here? Communication channel formula. What?
N times 2 minus 1.
Almost. N times n minus 1 divided by 2. Okay? But if you want to know how many people or how many channels of communication, I developed a stakeholder register. And I love the new profiles that are now in Smartsheet, because before I would have to create a Smartsheet, put everybody's phone number and email address in there. I added my picture, and then the only other person that added a picture was somebody who decided to be funny and entered like Bugs Bunny or something. But now you actually, I'm hoping that you don't have to do that anymore. So if you select all your stakeholders that are on your project, it should pop up with all of their information, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay. So once you do that, and that's step one, you got to know who your stakeholders are, because if you miss just one person on that list, it could throw your whole project into the trash. So that is so important. But once you see how many people are on your register, you can do the formula and see how many channels of communication. A project manager spends how much percentage of their time communicating? 90% is how much time project managers spend communicating. So you would think, what kind of tool do I need? I need something that's going to help me communicate, collaborate, be visible. And the other tools haven't been so much. They haven't been so much. So when I was so excited about Smartsheet, because it gives project managers those capabilities.
Right. So as you've been the champion of Smartsheet as a project management platform, what are some of the things that you've been able to take a step back and observe? Has it allowed leaders to begin to think more out of the box, or maybe make more real-time decisions? Or has it even opened new opportunities for new business?
So the opportunities are with our client,
Okay.
NASA. So as they see that we're using these tools, they're gaining more confidence in our ability to be on track. And it's kind of funny, everyone might be able to resonate with this. The better you do, the more that's expected of you, unfortunately. I was a good student in school, my siblings not so much. So if I got a B, that wasn't acceptable. But my sister could get an F, and that was, it
was all right.
It's okay. So it's the same thing with us. Once we show them what we can do, they want more. So every year they start putting together these goals for us, and I've noticed the last couple of years they've gotten more difficult because we're showing them that we can do it, and then they could take it a step further,
Sure.
and a step further, and a step further. It's not a bad thing. It actually helps you to be better as an organization. But Smartsheet's going to help us with our business clients to show them we deserve to be here, and we deserve to be here for a long time, and we're paying attention to what's going on in the industry, and we're not going to let another competitor take our contract from us.
That's great. So Stacy, what I'd like to do now, if it's all right, is just maybe pause and engage the audience and ask you guys if you have any questions right now for Stacy. And please don't be shy. Appreciate it if you'd come up to the mic or just raise your hand. Yep.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
So one quick question I have is, when you mentioned earlier about non-project managers getting them to kind of adopt best practices with project management through Smartsheet, can you just talk a little bit about that process?
Yes.
Essentially how you kind of got them on board.
It was great because I was having a challenge getting people to understand the language I was talking. And I was the only one that I felt that understood or had that language in my organization. And that's a real challenge when you're trying to speak in a certain way and nobody understands what you're saying. So we actually brought Smartsheet in as a consultant for specific project management training. And they actually created a site for us about all the different processes, all the different knowledge areas, 47 processes, inputs, tools, and techniques, outputs, all of that. How do you pass your PMP exam? They put it all together in a package. And they came and did training. So that way, when they went over it, I wasn't sounding like I was speaking a foreign language with my staff.
All right, other questions? Don't be shy. That's all right. So Stacy, what would be a few things someone would notice to identify a need for project management on Smartsheet, or identify successes of using Smartsheet?
So right now, I'm focused on the needs. And it's really just taking a step back and saying, how are we doing business today? And does it make sense? Or how are we executing this process today? Is it broken? Is there a way to do it better? And so I think as you take a look at some of those things in your work and in your workspace, you start to see, wow, times have changed. It's time to do this differently. It's time to innovate, come up with another solution that works better for everybody. So I think that those are the biggest opportunities. And when I was sitting in a session earlier today, I literally thought of 5 or 6 things in my head of, I wanted to write them down because I said, oh, workflows, work order requests, safety, so many different things that we do in our office that we get sent spreadsheets to update that now we can create smart sheets instead.
Sure. Is that something that resonates with the folks out there? Have you guys identified some processes or workflows based on being here this week that you can go back and kind of re-engage with other folks in your company on? I see some heads nodding. Yeah, I think that's important, absolutely. Glad you identified that.
I would love to see, because we have the community, and I know some people, it's all about sharing. And I said, people don't want to share their ideas, especially in their own departments. I feel like the silos are created because people feel that if they share what they know, then they're not needed anymore. Then they don't become valuable to their organization. I think that's a long history of that. And I think we have to, in order to be better as organizations and businesses and programs and companies, we have to get over that. We have to know that there's a place for us, even if we share what we know to everyone.
Sure.
So I think it would be great in the community for Smartsheet for people to throw up, hey, look what we're doing.
Yep.
Instead of having to wait to come to a conference and be like, wow, that's such a great idea, a place where we can find some of these tools and be able to use them across our programs without having to, wait for one of these opportunities.
Absolutely, you're right. So Stacy, what are the top 1 or 2 things someone here could do to bring Smartsheet's project management platform to their business and achieve the success you've achieved with Smartsheet?
I would say test, trial, reach out to Smartsheet, find somebody who uses Smartsheet, kind of keep your ear open to best practices of other companies. It's amazing that even us, one of the challenges that we had was we work with general contractors who in turn have their subcontractors, and they all have their different tools. They'll use P6, they'll use Excel, they'll use Project, and we only have one project that we're working on, and we need all of it to be integrated into one schedule with metrics. How do you do that? They don't want to give up their tools. So lately we've been making it a requirement in our contracts with our vendors that they will use Smartsheet. It's a requirement. We'll give you a license, we'll pay for it during the duration of the project, but we need all the subs and your information rolled up into a Smartsheet because that's what we're using. We're the customer. So once we started doing that, we found a couple of companies that changed their platform. They decided to sign up for Smartsheet, and now their businesses are using Smartsheet.
Great.
So that's been kind of a quick win for us because I think the challenge was a pushback from all the different stakeholders that we work with. We don't use Smartsheet, so then we're missing half of our data. We're missing segments of our data with all the people that we work with. You need all of it for it to work.
Yep.
And if you're using one platform and 5 other people are using something totally different, it just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Same as these integrations that Smartsheet's using with all the applications. Smartsheet doesn't really work for everybody unless you integrate these other applications.
Sure.
So you have to find a common medium or something that's going to work for your project.
Absolutely. So I saw some heads nodding. Is that a shared experience? Yep, gentleman in front.
Yeah, I'm a 10-person PM firm, and we put in our contracts, they have to use our schedules, they have to use our material tracking, they have to put their PCO log, they have to upload their PCOs to our PCO log for our clients to approve them, and we put it in our contract too.
That's
Yes.
good. Is that, again, is that common? I would just ask folks around here if they have kind of similar experience. Yeah. Good.
We got a lot of pushback on that. Certain companies have invested a lot of their own money and time into their solutions, but it comes down to, do you want to do the project for us or not? This is our tool, and we prefer to use Smartsheet, so that's one of our requirements now.
Right. So Stacy, many folks here will need to pitch the idea of Smartsheet's project management platform to their leadership. What are the top one or two things executives want to hear in a successful pitch?
Executives are easy. I mean, at least I think that they're easy. You got to talk about how much is it going to cost? What is it going to do for us? What productivity do you think we're going to get out of it? Are we going to be able to get rid of redundant systems and save money? What's our return on investment, basically? They like metrics. They like charts. They like graphs. They don't like details. So if you're able to come up with some use cases and some business cases that have shown reduction in time or money or increased productivity and actually have some numbers that go with that, then they'll be more receptive. They'll look at the data and be like, that works for me, and they'll usually sign on. So,
That's
yeah.
good. Yep. So, Stacey, I appreciate that. And what I'd like to do, again, is reach out to the audience if there's any questions. I'm sure Stacey would love to answer those, so please don't be shy. Do we have anything out there? No questions? Come on, guys. There's got to be something out there.
Everybody's tired, and they want to get on their plane.
Sorry, we have a question here. Yep.
What are some of the techniques you've used to identify roles, stakeholders, and separation of sheets and access points for missions? Where you consolidate information and where you split information?
That was a real big challenge, and actually I think our organization caused the need for different functions in the workspaces, because when we first started using sheets and workspaces, I started putting all of our projects into a project management workspace, and then I was like, oh, if I share this workspace with my contractors, then all contractors that we share it with are going to see everything. So that's when they came out with the differentiation between sharing a workspace or just that sheet, because they didn't always have that capability. So that was a big issue for us, to make sure that we have to be very careful on proprietary information from vendor to vendor, project to project, especially if it's including proposals, budgets. We actually, too, do proposal evaluations in Smartsheet. So we used to have a Word form for a proposal evaluation tool. We get all the proposals in, we'd have our ranking criteria that we put in the RFP, and then we'd manually score. Whoever was on the board would review the proposals, they'd fill out a document. Now it's all in Smartsheet. So people can actually have their own proposal evaluation sheet, but you have to keep that private. You have to make sure that it's not shared to other organizations that were bidding on it, or maybe organizations that are working on another project. So we had to be very careful. So I was very happy that you included that differentiation between the portfolios, the sheets, and being able to share just specific sheets. With your stakeholders, that's still, figuring out within our organization. We have similar stakeholders on different projects, but NASA has other organizations that we have to work with to do our job. So we try to reach out and make sure that we capture every stakeholder we can possibly think of, internal or external, and add it to the list. And it's great because we have phone numbers, email addresses, contacts of everybody who's involved, and then you can create a group in Smartsheet to where you don't have to type everybody's email every time you send out. You can just do the group name and it goes out to all the right people. So I find that it's really important, and if you miss, like I said, if you miss one or two, your requirements are different. Not that they won't change anyway, because I'm working on a project. We're building a new space shop right now at Kennedy Space Center. And our COO decided to take out some of the high-tech stuff because he has his own wish list of what he wants in the store. So now all of a sudden the scope's changed, and we have a new company that we have to integrate, and it's delayed and cost us more money. And so you're always going to have those situations, but trying to get everybody involved right from the beginning is just best practice before you go off and start developing and designing. It's just key.
Any more questions? Yep.
So what you were saying about first people being really entrenched in their established process and being attached to the tools they already have that really brings scrutiny, and then also your joke was another joke about finance people being really So in reference, so just really for that group of people, that's one that are in this organization, there can be a lot of positions be created if we could just get them on board with wanting to use Smartsheet. No idea
It's hard because with projects, you can't have a project without the money. And you can't track metrics and earn value management without the budget and the money and the invoices that have been paid and what's, retainage and all of that good stuff. You need that information and you need it timely. So when it's being tracked in a whole separate department in a different method and it's not shared to you, that makes it pretty difficult to have a concise and complete project management plan. And, so it's really hard. I think the hesitation has been the formula capabilities, the workbook capabilities. One of the things that somebody asked for recently was, can you have a tab in Smartsheet? Do you have to have 10 different individual sheets? Or can I have a workbook like I did in Excel? So that's one of our wish lists. And it's managing all those individual sheets that becomes very cumbersome right now in Smartsheet.
Sure.
Like if you don't have a good organizational plan on how your structure is going to be with your folders and your workspaces, things can get confusing. They get lost. Maybe even a way to color code, maybe by department or something, because they all look the same, all the folders look the same. So I think it's a challenge, and with our finance folks, I'm just going to start creating some tools on my own and then doing kind of just present them. So they do like a capital expenditure report that we get once a month, maybe on time. And when we finally get it, then we can update our Smartsheets, but that's a month delay. That doesn't work very well for me in managing my project. So I've uploaded it to Smartsheet and created links, which I don't care for links too much. It's hard to manage. If I can convince them to drop Excel and just start updating it, editing it in Smartsheet, showing the charts and graphs that can be created here in the future, that it automatically updates their reporting and their dashboards from a financial perspective, I think they'll buy in. Right now they're using different tools like Click. Does anybody use Click? They're using Click and a couple of other tools and apps right now to get those metrics and charting for how many sales we did, what's our per cap, all of those things that finance manages. If I can show how they can do the same thing using Smartsheet that they did Excel, I think they would be on board. It's just going to be a slow process because, again, they've been doing it for 30 years.
If I can offer something to that, I did this, where I took a level 1, level 2 reporting structure, where you report out specific metrics, and it was being done in 20. So, when I get this information, I just took everything and put it into Smartsheet, built sites, built all of the metrics out and presented it. And the next thing out of everyone's mouth is, when can we have this live? And it was done.
Right.
They moved, they changed.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. I mean, I think if you bring them something already kind of drafted out and presented, it's always a better way to do it than just saying, you should use Smartsheet. Because they don't know how to do it. Or you would think they don't know how to go about it. So if you can show them how it can be done by presenting it.
Extra work, but in the end, it's all automated and.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I've had to do this a lot. I'm an early adopter with Smartsheet at a kind of a small level. But really and truly, once the bulb clicks on that they can have this information real time, with most people, even in finance, the idea of taking data that's from a time card or a purchase order or anything that's going on, and that they can look at their sheet anytime, and they realize that's real-time data. To me, what's happened to me in the past as far as getting people to buy in, that has really been a key motivator. They don't have to wait a day or a week or a month for somebody to update a sheet. They can recognize the value of having it all real time. And that's one of those Smartsheet aha moments. And once they have that aha moment, then your work's kind of done.
I think it's the seamless factor from beginning, start, to finished product. You get all of it in one solution instead of having to tie into different ones.
Yep. So I think we're close to time. I think we have time for one more question. This gentleman down here.
Hi, just one quick question. Before you switch to the Smartsheet, how did you track your purchase order? How did you issue a purchase order? And how did you link the systems together?
So it is on my list for procurement requests. We have to submit what we call REs. When I worked for Delaware, for a State Department, it was PRs. Everybody has their own nomenclature. But where we are, it's an RE to allocate funding to a particular project at a certain level based on our business case or our business plan. And we have to go through project panel to get all the executives to review the business case and sign off on which projects we want to do and prioritize them. And then when we do the PL instead of the PR, it's a PL, that's how we commit our funds. And they're Word documents right now that we have to fill out the Word document, upload it to SharePoint, print it, scan it in, upload it to SharePoint, start a workflow, and then, it's just left there. It's not tied to the rest of the project documents. So now I want to go in and do a web form to do the procurement request or the funding allocation request, put it into a workflow in Smartsheet, and then I spoke to someone at lunch today about Google Docs integration, because from compliance perspective, when our auditors come in, they might still want to see a form instead of just a line item in Smartsheet. So that way it'll take the line item in Smartsheet and then convert it into a form that attaches automatically to Smartsheet. So that's on my list to do. I'm going to convert, hopefully, if they'll allow me. Again, finance likes to do their own thing. But I'm going to push and go ahead and develop it and then show it to them and see if that's something that they'll accept.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. So I want to thank you guys all for being here today. And Stacy, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.